Hey everybody, what's up? Tony and Jeff here for another episode of our Tony Talks or Tony and Jeff Speaks, whatever we're going to wind up calling this thing. Good to see you, Jeff. How you doing, brother? Back
Good.
from the Philippines.
Yeah, little still on the sleep schedule. You're right. I should probably took a whole month there. We're gonna go back there for a month. We're doing another event there in Pampanga, which is where I own the virtual assistant company, which is now an AI agency. But yeah, no, definitely getting acclimated back to this. I'll say there was a video I posted where I love the Philippines better than Miami. It is better culture, better people, and it's just awesome. So.
The only thing is the commute is a little bit more difficult, right?
And the lady
It's,
boys. There's a lot of lady
they,
boys there.
yeah, no, well, listen, there's plenty of those in Miami as well, I guess.
Yeah, not as many as in the Philippines, man. I'll say that they definitely. I don't know what it is. I didn't know that was a known thing. And by the way, they call them lady boys there. I was in an Uber, guys like, oh, be careful of the lady boys. So I thought it was being like some people are like, you got to come transvestites. Either way, they need the Lord, in my opinion.
I think everybody does. We could all use a little bit more.
Yes.
But anyway, so listen, we're just going to jump right into the topic here today. We're going to make today a little bit shorter than normal, about 30 minutes. But something that's so epically important that a lot of people have struggles with. And by the way, let me, for those who don't know us, Jeff Cunningham, Jeff the entrepreneur here from CLC Consulting, someone I've been working with for over a year with my brand and getting me out there. And of course, I am your host as well, Tony Rodriguez. That's my website, TonyRod.com. You can check me out there. I've been an entrepreneur for 35 years, and Jeff's been an entrepreneur for a long time as well. So his name, Jeff the Entrepreneur. But I've been doing this for 35 years. I'm a trainer with Tony Robbins for many years now. Been involved in the personal development space for 26 years, I guess, at this point. And it's just actually probably closer to 27. But it's been a heck of a journey. And these conversations that we're going to have here on a regular basis, we're going to be talking about some personal development stuff, some things that are going to help you get unstuck and reach that next level of your life. And of course, we're also going to, on a weekly basis, going to come in and speak about some social issues, some politics, some global news that's happening around the world, things that are affecting every one of us. So that's the kind of the combination that we're going to be coming out with every week. And it will be every Wednesday moving forward for 30 to 40 minutes, 45 minutes per day. So the conversation I want to have today is whether it's time to let go, because we oftentimes are just stuck on our old story. We're stuck on maybe something that happened. We're prisoners of our own mind based on whatever happened in the past. So the question is, are you ready to let go? Because is it time to let go? I think it is. I think that what we keep hanging on to, what we're resisting, what you resist persists, right? And if you're holding on to anger or holding on to frustration or resentment or whatever it is, it really just hurts you, right? Me. It hurts the individual that's holding back, and it hurts more than just the person that's being resentful. It hurts those that matter most, the people around you. What do you think about that, Jeff?
Yeah, so I'm just coming. I joined up for this thing called Soul Care, and the first part is forgiving others. There's actually a book by Rob Reiner called Soul Care, and the first part is about forgiving others. And where it became aware to me when I was in Vegas and SolarCon, and there was a guy, Sam Taggart, and he had everybody to describe your life in a moment, be as detailed as possible was the assignment. And I wrote this, and I'll read it because you'll hear it, and I've changed sense of it. And I read it at the dinner, and one of the girls, one of the ladies that is in my life, she's just like, you need to change that. And it made me like, oh, but this is what I design your life with meticulation. I want to be a father, have a family, and a loving wife who supports me in my journey and continues to push me when I need it. I'm the leader and provider for her and make her feel safe and provide her like no other woman, where every other woman who passed on me is jealous. I own, just like a Chick-fil-A, the sickest coffee shop in honor of my brother who passed, Kokomo J's. That's all I wrote by the time. But you could see the part where I had that little resentment, right?
Right.
And it was just how I said I was like proud and anger before, and now I like control my anger emotions. I like proud and resentment because that's the chip on my shoulder. And I spoke at an event just recently. Where was it? Oh, it's the kid, and he said, "You have a huge chip on your shoulder." And I always like took pride, like that's what makes me go better, you know. So Grant disses me, watch me, you know, kind of in that way, you know.
And there's power to that. So that what we would in the personal development space, what and in business and in life, there's different things that drive us, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
different fuels that drive us. And the question is, for everyone that's listening, is what is your fuel of choice? Your fuel of choice in this case, Jeff, seems to be that of the bit of the resentment that you used and saying, watch me, I'm going to prove you wrong. So it's this anger, the resentment, this feeling of not enoughness and having to prove somebody wrong that is driving you. And while that can burn for a while, and don't get me wrong, anger and resentment and everything else, that burns hot. It's a hot burning fuel, but what burns too hot usually burns out. So you have to change your fuel of choice, right?
Yeah.
What are you choosing for fuel? And right now you're choosing that. Well, at some point you need to change, because it's just like somebody who gets into music, as an example. I'm just trying to think of the different people, but Eminem as an example. He had a tough life growing up, growing out of it, and he got into music and he started making music, but there was a lot of anger and resentment and everything else in there. But now he's doing financially incredibly well, so he's still trying to tap into that same level of energy, but it's different now because he's no longer going through that struggle. Struggle is part of all of our lives, right? And it's something that we need to grow through, right? We need to get up and grow through those things that are happening in our lives. And until we grow through them, we keep going through them, right? That's obviously, that's the tagline, to get up and grow. But you need to grow through them and elevate to that next level. And the next level is also burning a different type of fuel. So forgiveness is going to allow you to see a different level of life, of relationships, of hell, look outside and you can just experience life in a different way, because you can now look through a different lens. Because the lens that you're looking through life, if your primary fuel is anger or resentment or whatever it is, that's a certain lens you're looking through. So you're not going to be able to see some things that through that very lens, because your mind is closed off. You're whether you're protecting your heart, you're protecting your business, you're protecting your money, you're protecting whatever it is. And you need to let go of a lot of the things that are weighing you down, right? So forgiveness is the key.
Yeah, and by the way, Robert just said, I've been told that anger can be a fuel. Personal experience has revealed to me working through it, which is challenging, is worth doing. So yeah, kind of me, biggest thing that I did, I was actually, when I was in Cabo, Emily Ford, she spoke wonderfully. She had me call and forgive people. That was her assignment, right? And I didn't want to do it. And in the Bible, it says pray for your enemies. It doesn't tell you pray for anybody else but your enemies, right? So it's really been working on me, Tony, because this is me letting go of the chip on my shoulder. This is me letting go of people who do wrong me. Like I still have it in the back. I might have to change my even 5-year plan that I wrote out, because I got to see how much in there. I don't think there's anything in there. I already did some. I said the lady who broke my heart, who saw everything, came back to me, so it was possible for things and fulfillment and not things. And that's already happened, right? She was the one I kind of had some resentment towards, right? But yeah, maybe you don't truly forgive. How do you truly forgive?
And we'll get to that in a second, but I will say this, that usually what you dislike in someone else is something you dislike in yourself. So keep that one in the back of your mind. And I think that forgiveness is important because it's for you, not for them. And the further you go down the road of forgiveness, the more you forgive, the more you see, the more you can connect with yourself and other people. How do you truly forgive? Well, let's talk about what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is something that we all desperately want from so many people, but it's the thing that we are least willing to give to others, right? And there's a saying, well, first of all, to go back to what you said a moment ago, that God says, love your enemy, pray for your enemies. Well, there's a great quote by Khalil Gibran that says, and God said, love your enemy. So I obeyed and loved myself.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right? Because I think that we are our worst enemy. So if you're going to love your enemy, love yourself first. And that's, by the way, the greatest thing you can do for your family for your loved ones, for your friends, for your community, for the world, is to love yourself more, to get back in touch with you and love yourself more. Because if you love yourself more, then there's more of you to get around, to make an impact, to live the life that you want to live. That's number one. And forgiveness is something that you're going to give to yourself. There was something else I was going to mention there, and it fell out of my mind here just as I was saying. This is
why I love working with you, Tony. You say so many things that are like just like so true. Like you said just a second ago, like, and it just, I reflected on it, right? And you have a way to do it in a loving way, but it hurts and sparks change. Where you said like the things we hate about somebody is the things we see in ourselves. And I started like thinking that things we resent are things and I just started feeling like, oh yeah, that's actually my thing, right? Like I resent myself doing that, you know? And it did so like, but like, here's the thing, in the pride, if I change that, right? And you can change. I've always prided myself, and maybe I shouldn't, but when I figure something wrong, I would do anything I do to change it quick, right? People said I was doing something, like I was talking too fast, I would talk slow, right? Whatever it is, I would do it on the dime. I used to do it in football all the time. I had this is the way I operated, like my mind. But when people wanted me to, I could just meal and do what they said, right? So, but maybe it's not just doing what they say, it's actually internally changing, right? So I think a lot of times, you know, we can always mask and say stuff, but actually doing it is the work, you know?
Yeah. And look, you know, and I know there's a lot that's said about pride and in religion. I'm going to touch on two things: pride and grace. That, you know, pride is an enemy. It's really not. You need to be proud of what you do, how you're showing up in life. And if you're not, I think you're doing a disservice to yourself and to others, right? Because if you're not proud of yourself, so if you're not tooting your own horn, so to speak, then there are many people that aren't going to know who you are, what you're about, and they'll never have the opportunity.
You sound like Uncle G there. Uncle G would always say that.
Well, you know, and listen, I think that there's a lot of great things that everybody says, regardless of whether you're a big fan of this one or that one or the other one. So many people are sharing a similar message, but the reality of it is you need to have a level of pride in your life, pride in craftsmanship, pride in your work. That's something that's missing in society now is pride in craftsmanship, pride in what you do. And that's part of the societal rot that we've been seeing, because nobody's proud of anything. Right? They're not proud of what they're doing. They're doing their jobs half-assed. They do the minimum possible. They think about it in business that on the customer service side, if we think about that just for a second, that the person that you have the most contact with is usually the person that's least qualified to help you, the least trained person, right? So they're not going to have that pride in what they're doing with their job. So it affects everything in our life. So I'm a believer in pride. Pride is not our enemy, and I understand that you can't be so proud that you're belittling people. I'm the best. Screw you. You're no good.
Be careful of it, Tony, because I get paid to speak. I get paid to do everything. I can get really like, I shouldn't be on this call. I shouldn't do this. Like I got that way, and I fight it, and I'm fighting that. There is a good pride. I'm with you on that. Okay, I totally agree.
Just like ego. Same thing.
Yeah, ego could be ego's edging God out. Yes, 100%.
Yes and no. I think that, you know, if it's edging God out, why did God give you the ability to make that choice and that decision? So there's a conversation we can have about ego as well. I don't think ego is our enemy. I think that if people didn't have ego, we wouldn't have the Olympics. We wouldn't have
we wouldn't have Trump as a president.
We wouldn't have Trump as president. We wouldn't have the Super Bowl. We wouldn't have the World Series. We wouldn't have anything, because if everyone is special, no one is special.
Right.
Right.
No, so I get it, but I also think
ego is important. Just make ego your friend. Don't let him drive the bus or the car all the time, because then you are going to look like an arrogant ass and people aren't going to listen, and it could be destructive. But it's all about a healthy balance with pride, with ego, and everything else. So it's important to recognize that there's so many things. And this morning I was having
but here's my point of bringing up pride with forgiveness, right? If I have pride and I have an ego, it's like, you don't treat me that way, I'm going to do this. But I'm operating under those two concerns when I'm not forgiving. Got it? My pride and ego is like, I don't get treated that way. I'm this person. You don't treat me this way. You'll see, right? Chip on the shoulder. That's where so I'm with you on the healthy side. I get it. Trust me. I promote myself. There is anything. Ego, everybody's got one. I think a lot of where like edging God out came from is just like us, like you see, whatchamacallit? The thing is that if there is really a Satan, right, they can then, man, this guy Robert Broker, you know this guy Robert Broker? Or not?
Yes. He's a good dude.
Right, man, great dude. He's putting all sorts. I want to acknowledge what he's saying, but so many people will kind of put in Satan will feed your ego, so you become a god, right? George Soros level. There
Right.
is the danger part. You got to be like,
there is 100%.
And the reason why I'm saying it, because I see myself, my old self used to be very narcissistic, not narcissistic really. It's probably not the word, but like you could ask my brother, very proud.
Self-centeredness. We're very much inwardly focused, and
I used to be like, I'm great. Everybody should compliment me. It's embarrassing, but I used to do that all the time.
But Liz, you're not alone. Many people are self-centered, and we tend to grow out of that. And that's why, again, going back to the 6 human needs that we often that I've spoken to you about a lot, and we can cover that another time. But really quickly, they're kind of in line with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's the need for certainty or security, uncertainty or adventure, a variety. There's the need for significance, to feel important, look important, be everybody's eyes on me. There's love and connection. There's growth and contribution. So depending where you are on that, you're going to experience life in a different way. So I know we don't have that much time, so I'm going to try to keep this as tight as possible. So there's nothing wrong with where you've been. We go through different cycles of life, and it's, again, this is where the forgiveness comes in, even for you on that. But before I jump into forgiveness, this morning I was having a conversation on one of the shows that I was on, and somebody who says, yeah, the grace, I've been graced so much, and I, undeserved grace. And I said, you know what, you need to stop saying that. Accept the grace, accept the kindness, accept the gifts, accept whatever's coming to you, because in order to give, you must also allow yourself to receive. It's the law of reciprocation. So if you've been graced by God, you've been graced by someone else, don't say, oh, but I don't deserve it. Stop. If you got it, it's because you did deserve it, right? So own it. Be willing to accept. And I think that's an important part. Now, going back to the forgiveness piece, even to what you were saying about resentment, forgiveness is an epically important part of what we're talking about here. And the reason I say that is you need to forgive yourself for at times not knowing what you didn't know. So you can't fix something that you're unaware of. Right. That's why awareness is such an important part of our lives, of our business, of our relationships, of who we are. Self-awareness, where we are, how we are, why it is that we're doing, saying, acting, and reacting the way that we do. So there's a great quote by Maya Angelou that says, when you do the best you can with what you know, and when you know better, you do better. And I think that that's a really important part of understanding that. And forgiveness oftentimes is more for you than it is for the other person. Because when you harbor anger or hate for someone or resentment for something that they did, it's this energetic tie that you have to that person. So if somebody hurt you 20 years ago and you're still suffering from it now it's you. You're the one that's hurting yourself. Because what happened 20 years ago happened 20 years ago. That person might be dead. That person might not be anywhere near you. They may be in another country. They may be incarcerated. They may be wherever they are. Chances are they're not thinking about you, but you are. So you're putting yourself into prison for something that happened 20 years ago. If you're still suffering what happened, you're the one that's causing the suffering. Suffering is a choice, and you're choosing to suffer. Yes, bad things happened, but when you choose and decide to let go, then you cut that energetic tie from whatever happened. Because the idea isn't to forget the event. The idea isn't to cancel that and to lobotomize yourself, right? Because if you forget the past, you're destined to repeat it, right? That's why we all have to be good students of it, of history. So the idea is to forgive the person, the situation, the occurrence, and to, of course, forgive yourself.
How do you do it? By just saying it, by saying it to them or saying it out loud? You did that one assignment to me, and it was amazing. I don't know, I forget what it was.
It was the Ho'oponopono.
Yeah, I can never say the name. Yeah, it was very good. So that taught me it. Like, you were the first person. Anytime I hear forgiveness, I think of you, because that really, really kind of woke me up towards it, and now we're doing this whole new therapy thing where the first part was forgiving other people, right? And we're doing practice on that,
And I think it's it's so important. People don't understand what that is. And by the way, the forgiveness, you don't have to talk to the person that hurt you. You can forgive them energetically. You can forgive generationally. You can forgive someone who's already gone. Because if you're always thinking about them, they're not really at peace. Just the same way that, you can be thinking about someone, all of a sudden your phone rings and it's them. What? How's that possible? Haven't spoken to this person in 2 years. Well, there's an energetic connection. Well, guess what? That energetic connection exists as well when you have that anger or hate or resentment towards somebody. That connection exists there as well. So sometimes when you just the physical act of saying, you know what, I release you, I forgive you, and you just cut those energetic strings, something happens in their life as well, just like it happens in yours. So I say that there's 5 steps to forgiveness. And, we can get into this more. And if for anyone who's watching, you can go on my website, TonyRod.com. I'm sure there's some videos on there that you can catch on that. And the 5 steps is, first off, is forgiving the situation, the location, even the place, that because whenever you think of something bad, you don't necessarily always go to that person that did it. You think about where you were, the environment, the circumstances, right? It's almost like forgive that location, forgive that event, that space. Then of course you have to forgive the person that hurt you, whatever it was. And forgiveness, by the way, isn't you're not saying that whatever happened was okay. You're not condoning the act. You're not pardoning them. You're just forgiving so that you can release yourself from that prison. So you forgive that person, as hard as that is. And I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, they're probably not thinking about you. If they hurt you 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, they stole from you, they broke your heart, they violated you, they beat you, they abused you, whatever it is. Guess what? 20 years later, they're not thinking about you. You're thinking about them. You're renting space. They're renting space in your head for nothing.
I think it was for me, Tony. Like I would just always pick the girl. I mean, this is Miami too, but anyway, I pick a girl who dated a richer guy. And I was like, I need more money, and that was always like my MO. I was thinking I was
like, you're picking the wrong girls.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. I mean, but that was probably it. That was probably a little bit of it. A
high quality woman isn't necessarily the woman that wants and needs the most money. It's not. It's not at all. So maybe you're just choosing the wrong women, brother. That's all. So, but moving on, and by the way, and we'll get to that in a minute. So forgiving the situation, the location, then forgiving the person that hurt you. And then the third step is forgiving God. And oftentimes people say, what, forgiving God? Who am I to forgive God? God doesn't need my forgiveness. I said, you're right. He doesn't. But inevitably, what happens when something bad happens? Why God? Why me? Well, are you not blaming God? You're blaming him for whatever the circumstances happen, even though you may have been doing something that led to that. So understanding that and being aware of that. So just forgiving God. Then I'm going to skip over step 4 real quick, and I'll go to step 5. And step 5 is obvious: forgive yourself. Well, that sounds good, but in order to forgive yourself, if you don't accept any responsibility for what happened, what is there to forgive? It's taking us back to step number 4, is you've got to accept radical responsibility for what happened. Now, obviously, there's different levels of intensity of why people are angry and things that happen. So I'm not downplaying that. If you've been injured, if you've been abused, if you've been, molested, whatever it is, I understand the trauma behind that. I get it. So I'm not saying that you are responsible for what happened. I'm just saying accept responsibility for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, being alive at the wrong place at the wrong time, because inevitably you said, why me? What did I do to deserve it? So you have to accept the responsibility of having been in the wrong place at the wrong time. You got hit by a car. Well, just own it wasn't your fault. Just own the fact that you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that's what happened. Because in order to forgive yourself, you got to take ownership of something in order to forgive. So it gets a little deeper than that. I just gave you the 3,000-foot view. Obviously, there's a process to this, including the Ho'oponopono, including emotional stacking exercises and that sort of thing in order to forgive. But by forgiving, you basically free yourself from that. So you're removing the emotional intensity. So much so where you can talk about, there's a lot of people that they can't talk about the traumatic experience in their life without feeling it viscerally and emotionally and going back to that place. And now their mindset and their mood and their heart, and they're crying and they're broken for the next couple of days or couple of weeks because they've spoken from the wound and not from the scar. But the only way to speak from the scar is to heal what happened. The only way to do it is you need to heal what hurt you so you don't bleed on people that didn't cut you, right? So it's important to do that. So the healing process begins so you can learn the lesson so that you can share the story without re-victimizing yourself every time you share it. because that is the key. That is the road forward. That is the road to happiness, the road to joy and a happier life is to forgive, is to let go. Because when you can do that, you see things at a different level. You can love at a deeper level. You can connect with yourself at a deeper level. Because, and I know that we're running short on time, so I'm going to just give this analogy. There's many people have heard that anger, and Buddha said that anger is like holding on to a hot piece of coal, waiting for your enemies to come by so you can cast it at your enemies and hurt them. Except your enemies don't come by, and the only one you're hurting is yourself. That's pretty much the quote. But I actually don't agree with that, because you're not just hurting yourself. Have you ever had a toothache or an earache or a backache? We all have. How are you showing up at work? How are you showing up to your clients, your customers, to your friends? How are you showing up to yourself? More importantly, how are you showing up to the people that you love? Your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend, your significant other. How are you showing up to your children? Even if you can mask the pain and smile through the pain, you're still a dimmed down, dumbed down version of who you should be because you're in pain. Well, if you can remove the pain, now you're going to show up as a different version of you, a bigger, better, brighter version of you. And that's who we all need. That's who your family needs. That's who your clients and customers need, who your friends need, who your community, who the world needs, who God needs you to be. So it's all about forgiveness. So we must forgive. We must let go. It's time to let go. You can't move forward if you're carrying around the shit from yesterday. You've got to let it go. There's a verse in well, not in the Bible, but in the Lord's Prayer that says, God, please forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. In other words, forgive me the way I forgive those who have wronged me. Well, if I'm not willing to forgive anyone, then when I'm saying that prayer, and I believe that a version of that prayer exists in every religion, if you're saying that prayer, then are you telling God, please don't forgive me because I don't forgive anybody either? Right? So forgiveness is one of the pathways to freedom, to joy, to happiness, right? It's forgiveness and gratitude. So I think that we should all forgive. For those who are listening, you can check out the Ho'oponopono, Ho'oponopono. I'll put that in the chat. And just look into that because it's an ancient Hawaiian spiritual prayer of forgiveness. And I think that everybody should really practice it because it is incredibly impactful. And this is certainly a conversation we can have again at another time because I know that we're running out of time. Yeah, so that's how I would say forgiveness really should go and how it shows up in our lives.
Yeah, and Tony, it's amazing because can I tell you something? I'm glad we do this because your stuff is so good. Like you have it, like it helps me so many times. Oh yeah, put it Ho'oponopono.
Oh damn, I misspelled that. It's Ho'oponopono. Yeah, hold on.
I look forward to doing this again, whether we do this every Wednesday or not, whether it's news, personal development. Probably should be personal development because I feel like that's better than covering the news. But even with you, when you speak on the news, you kind of hold it accountable to such a different light. You have a God-given gift, and I'm so lucky to know you and have you. And we're gonna be back again. So click like, subscribe wherever this is, turn on your notifications. I don't know when we're going to do this again, but we should pick a set time,
Well, we can do it again next Wednesday. I'm actually not going to be around, but we'll figure it out and we'll make it happen. But thank you again, everyone, for watching. Feel free to share this video, whether you're watching it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or I'm sorry, X, LinkedIn, wherever it is. Just comment, share this out with your friends. We are going to be here on a regular basis. And thank you again for being here. Remember, forgiveness is the key. And the sooner you forgive those who hurt you, the freer you'll be. And the closer you'll be to living the life that you want to live. Because the next level of your life, my friends, is going to demand the next level of you. So you got to grow through what you go through so you stop going through it. So you can find Jeff at Jeff the Entrepreneur on Instagram and all the other places. You can find me at TonyRod.com. And if you just hashtag Get Up and Grow, you're going to find a whole bunch of videos and a bunch of stuff that I'm doing out there as well. So thank you for joining us. Jeff, thank you for being here, brother. Appreciate you. And we'll see you next week.
All right. See you
Ciao
tomorrow.
for now.
I got the longevity clinic now.
Yeah.